I want to help you straighten out how you think about competition when it comes to building your SaaS product. So let's dive in. Now, when I built my first SaaS product, I, like probably many of you, was borderline obsessed with the competitors in my space. And that turned out to be the absolute wrong way to be thinking about it. I was protective, secretive, all this kind of stuff. In the end, no one cared, and that was all kind of detrimental to the progress that I wanted to make. So let me explain for you what the proper way is to think about this and some counterintuitive truths that I've learned over the years about the benefits, some of them significant when it comes to the competitive landscape for your product. So the first one, which some people may want to challenge, but I can assure you this is the case. Finding competitors in your space is a form of validation. And in fact, if you don't have competitors in your space, that may mean that there isn't a market for your product. I've never built something that was the first of anything, despite the success I've had in SaaS. So that gives you some indication that competition is a form of validation for the market. The other benefit there is if you've got competitors, chances are you need to do less educating about the solution in the market for your customer, and that's helpful as well too. So that's how I would think about it differently than a lot of people do today. The other one, and this is a big one, your customer is nowhere near as obsessed about your competition as you are. In fact, the customer may not actually know about your competitors. That one is counterintuitive, but I found that to be the case as well also. Nobody's going to be obsessing over that as much as you will. Now, I'm not saying that keeping a close eye on the competition isn't necessarily a good thing, but I don't want you to be obsessed about it. I want you to generally track their progress as well too, to kind of see which direction they're heading in, because that is likely to influence yours as well also, as you try to figure out where there's a niche. And that brings me to my next point. People, I think, often underestimate the potential there are in crowded spaces. Now, I would imagine some folks are thinking like it doesn't make any sense to enter into a crowded space. They talk about blue ocean, red ocean, all that kind of stuff. I get it, right? But time and time again, over and over and over again, people have built wildly successful products in ridiculously crowded spaces. Then that continue to get more crowded now. And the example I usually give for that is Slack. There are a bajillion chat applications, and there's always more coming on the market. But Slack was able to kind of carve out a huge portion of that industry because they did some things differently. So think about that as well too. There's always a niche that you can capitalize on. You just have to find it. Okay, so to recap, competition is actually a good thing. It's a form of validation, and in fact, if you don't have it, that's more of a flag. Second point, your customer is nowhere near as obsessed about your competition in your market as you are. So realize that and instead kind of get into their mind as opposed to them trying to get into yours, right? So I want you to think like them as opposed to the alternative, because that's the headspace you need to be in order to build a successful SaaS company. And you can find a niche in any space. It really doesn't matter how crowded. Sure, some may have more opportunity than others, but again, it really depends on how far you want to go. All SaaS products and ideas and opportunities are not created equal. Some are much larger, some are much smaller, and there's pros and cons to that as well too. I'll talk about that kind of stuff in future content. Okay, so how do you apply what I've shared with you here? Well, if you haven't already, find your next closest competitor from your perspective, or maybe find a couple. Tear their products apart, figure out what they do well, and more importantly, maybe what they don't do well, because that's likely to have significant influence over your roadmap. That speaks to opportunity for you. And again, your customer may not know, but you can start kind of on second base or third base if you go about building your product in this way. Work backwards from your roadmap based on where it appears they're having success and capitalize on those opportunities where they maybe are not. Okay, and the last piece I wanted to share is please, if you found this content valuable, like, subscribe, comment. That helps me better understand which of this I should double down on and explore further versus where I should shift and produce more content for you, because that may be more valuable.